All right, hello and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be looking at the next step in our app, which is adding the posts to the UI. So currently, if we go ahead and go to our index.html and restart our server, and we pin that right there, obviously we can't actually add a post. Now when we click add post and we go to our console, and we console.log posts. Oh, that's not the right function. Console.log. Of course, we have our post that was just added. So we have a new post. We have no way of adding that post to our UI. As you can see right here, we left a comment here, click saying add post to UI. Now I just want to leave a quick tip really quick, which is the great thing about adding comments is that I haven't opened this file in about 4 days. I last opened it on 19th of July, and it's 4 days later on the 23rd. And now I actually know exactly what to do. I open it up. Now, of course, this is a very simple document. I mean, this is only 30 lines of code. This is this is extremely basic, but it's still great because it just opened up and it's like add post to UI and there's something here. So I immediately know, okay, this is what I got to do. Now I know exactly what I'm doing the moment I get in. It's always great to comment your code, even before you write it, because if you just save it, you exit out and you leave for a bit, you might forget what you're doing. Well, you probably will, especially for 4 days. You're not going to remember. I got so much other stuff going on that it's like I would never remember. So just keep that in mind. I think that's a really good piece of advice. All right, so something I should follow too more. All right, so now we got to add our post to the UI. All right, so let's go ahead and make some functions. Now we could go ahead and start adding our posts to the UI we have our post UI list up here. This is our reference to the posts element. So we could just say, like, we could start adding posts to the UI using this right here, but we don't want to add posts to the UI just here because we want to make it so that everything's organized better. We don't want to keep everything all in this same function for when we click add post, because this is all of this code is running just when we click the add button, just when we click this button. So we don't want to run so much code that it's like we create one giant function when we don't need to, especially because we're also going to be redoing the add post to UI code later when we have dynamic data, because we're gonna have dynamic data, so that way when someone reloads, it'll add all the posts that already exist, because we'll be storing them in local storage. So we're going to go outside of this event listener function, and we're just going to create a new function. So we're going to call this, I don't know if I spelled that wrong. We're going to call this add post to UI. Something simple like that. And it's not going to take in, is it going to take in, oh yeah, we're going to take in the post. So what we're going to do? So we're going to click add post to UI, and then we'll pass in the post that we've already defined in the last video, or the last few. So that's the post. And of course the post has the ID, the body, and the created at date. Anything else? Nope, that's it. So now what we can do is we can go back here and we can take our code. This is the code that we didn't want to stay. Where is it? Okay, so here's the UL. So this is the UL for our post, which is this whole big UL here, and then one LI that we have that's right here. So we want to copy this, and we're gonna save that, and now the post is gone. So now we have no posts, and we were just keeping it there just so we could use it later in here. So we're gonna have it in here. That's not gonna be like this. It's gonna be a little bit different. But what we're gonna do really quick is I'm just gonna shift tab this a bit. You can highlight stuff and then do tab to tab it over, and then shift tab to tab it back. It's something useful in VS Code. So we're just going to comment that out because we want to use this to build the LI. We need to build the LI as an actual element because we got to add listeners, because we're going to have buttons and stuff later. So we need to actually create an LI. So how do we create this element? How do we create all this HTML? So what we're going to do is we're going to say let, because we're going to, or do var, excuse me. Var is just another way of saying let, basically, or let is just another version of var. It's another way to declare a variable. I didn't mean to say that. We're not going to be using that right now. There's some minor differences, but nothing that really you need to worry about right now. So var, so we're going to declare this as our new to-do, or we're just going to say to-do, you just do to-do item, or no, new to-do. I want to give it a better name, like to-do item, or no, it should be post, first of all, not to-do. Post item. We can always change it. And we're going to set that to document.createElement. And then this takes in a string. And this string is the name of the element. So we want to give it, because we're creating an li, we want to give it the name li. So li, and that's it. Now we have post item, which is a reference to a new, it's a list item element. So what we're going to want to do is, at the end of the code, we're just going to append it to the HTML. So how do we add something to the HTML? Well, what we got to do is we got to go to our post UI list. So we got post UI list. So we do posts UI list dot append child. This append child is a function or a method that adds a child to the parent object, which is post UI list. So it's this parent object, you're adding a child to it, and we're doing post item, and then that should be it. So what we could do is we could just say really quick, well, actually, let's not do anything. Let's just type in some stuff, and look, a dot appears up. If we go ahead and inspect that dot, there's an li here. There's a new li. If we keep on clicking that, we're just going to get tons of li's with no data in them. Just a bunch of li's that are being added dynamically. If we refresh, they all disappear. So that's that. So now we're actually adding the element. But in here, this white space right here, there's tons of stuff we got to do. There is tons of stuff. We got to add all the classes for the li. We got to add in HTML, all this extra HTML as the inner HTML in this element. We got to like append it. There's so much stuff that we need to do. So this is how you create a new element and add it. Whenever you're adding HTML, that you can add HTML in a couple ways. First of all, this is one of the ways. You can create a new element and then you can append it as a child. Another way is to say post item dot inner HTML equals, and then we can put a string here. So we could say hello. And if we add posts, it should, why isn't it working? All right, sorry about that error. I figured it out. It was basically my posts were not being added because the text box was empty, because up here we were doing a check. So I just went and commented that out just for testing purposes. Later in the app, we're going to make it so that way it'll give a alert, like up here. It'll actually alert you that your text box is empty. But for right now, since we're not giving any user feedback, it's generally great to give user feedback if you're going to do a type of check like this. Otherwise, you're going to be like me. You're going to be so confused why nothing's working. Like, obviously, you'd never actually, if you're using the app, add a post without any value. But we're just demoing. So, anyways, what I was just going to say is post.innerHTML equals, we could say hello world. Save that, refresh, and then just add a bunch of posts. And now all our LIs say hello world. But we want to add in dynamic HTML. Now, what we could do is just say, we could obviously say it's equal to post.body. And we save that, and then we just have some values here, and then boom. That works. We could also, well, that's about it for that, actually. Now, what we want to do is we want to have this inner HTML. We want to copy this. So just Control-C. We want to copy it in there and just paste it in there. Kind of. Now, you can already see some issues. First of all, some of it is uncommented. Some of it's not. We uncomment that. There we go. But you can see there's some issues. Like, we could try to append it and like go like this and reopen it and then reclose it, and then add pluses, because you can. This is called concatenating strings, where you close them and then you add them together. You can have them on different lines. You can see we're kind of getting it to work, but it looks like such a mess. And also, we need to have this as dynamic. We need to have this data as dynamic. We need to have this dynamic. So it's like, it ends up being just a huge mess, and it's just not worth our time. So what we want to do is use a new type of string, which we haven't been introduced to yet. This is called a template string. It's the two little quotation marks up next to the number 1 and above tab next to the number 1 in the top left of your keyboard and under escape. It's like the tilde key. I don't know what it's actually called, but in JavaScript they call it template strings. And in here we can type regular strings, but the cool thing is that if we go into another line, it doesn't give us any errors. So we can just type it like it's HTML actually. This isn't just used for HTML, but this is something that's great. So just put on our semicolon and then boom. Now in here we could just literally like copy everything. We could just uncomment this just for demo purposes. We can copy this and we could put this all in here, and then we just got to tab it out just so it's, you know, set up correctly. And then if we comment this out, now it's not going to look perfect because we haven't added any classes to the LI yet, but if we add a post, look, we actually get our dynamic data and it's actually organized properly. It's just that the styling of the LI is obviously off, but we're actually getting our post. We're not actually getting any of the data yet, of course, but we'll go over that right now actually. So how do we actually get the data? Well, the cool thing in template strings is that generally if you want to add data, let's say you wanted to add data, so we could do let str equal, we could say my name is, and then add name plus, and then hello. And if we had a variable called name, so we'll just say let name equal Bob, and then we just console.log str. If we add a post really quick, it says my name is Bob. Hello. We just added a dynamic variable into the string. So what this is it just takes this value and then adds it into the string. That's all it does. Now we could do that with this, but there's actually a way better way. We don't even have to close these tags. We don't have to close the tags. We don't have to do pluses. All we got to do is come into this place that we want to be dynamic. So post number and then the number. We want to use the ID. So what you do is you type $, and then open curly braces and close curly braces. And in here we can now implement. We can write JavaScript code. So we could type something like 1 times 1. And if we save that and we do this, well, 1 times 1 is 1. But if we did 1 times 2 and we saved that and we added some posts, 2. And then, yeah, you could do JavaScript. So with JavaScript, of course, we don't want to just do random math. We want to actually access some things. So post dot ID. We could access post dot ID. Then in here, we can get rid of the date and we could say post dot date, or created at, excuse me. And then over here, we can say post dot body. And now if we start adding some posts, so we got no values, but now we're actually getting posts, and their dates are different because they have unique dates. So now we're actually getting somewhere. Now we're actually getting somewhere. So that's it for template strings. Now we want to look at how do we add some dynamic data to, how do we add classes and styling to the LI, because we have this stuff up here. We have these classes. Let's just get rid of all this confusing stuff. What we want to do is we want to figure out how to add the classes and the style to the LI. It's actually very simple. So I'm going to teach you now how to access stylings and classes from inside HTML. And you're going to use this a lot because let's say that you wanted to create something that's like in JavaScript where you have a modal or something like an alert that pops up and it's green. And if you click on it, maybe it'll go away, but maybe it'll like change colors or something, or you can make it so that way, depending on certain events that are going on in your code, you can actually change how an item will look based on your code and how it's running, how the app is actually working. So you want to do that sometimes. For us, this is not us actually doing it. This is just us adding the element and creating the element. So we got to add all the classes to it. So we got to say post item dot. Now we can access properties. So of course there was the inner HTML. There's also inner text, which is just like the text portion of it. So you see like in between. So in between the LI tags. So if we did basically ul.text content, it would be like just the text content. You don't put HTML in text content. So post item.inner text is another way. You just set it equal to something. what we want to do is we want to do post item.style, and now we're starting to access the CSS styles. And you can see there's tons of CSS selectors, or not selectors, but attributes in here, or properties. We could do dot, well, here's all the CSS properties actually up here. There's just so many. And they use, I believe it's camel case. So instead of using, you know, instead of using like outline dash width, it's outline width. So if we did something like background color, it's background color, not background dash color, because that doesn't work in code. So if we wanted to change the background color, we could. So if we set that equal to red, and then we just save that, and we start adding posts, well, we got to add a value. Oh, wait. Background color. What do we do here? So we just change it to, oops, let me do that. Don't think it's that. Unexpected token. Where's that token at? Oh, whoops. That's me being stupid. I'm just gonna comment that out. Now we start adding posts. Now the background's red. And so you could do things like, you know, change it dynamically and all that kind of stuff. So there's just so much stuff you can do with it once you start getting access to this. So all it is just style.css properties like color, text, well, what is it, like, what else could we do? Like box shadow, you know, like there's tons of stuff. There's tons of stuff you could do. What we want for this is we want style.width. So this is just width. This is a specific thing we want. So we set that to 100%. And then we also want to say that this is important. There's that. And this is I'm just copying from here. Now what we want to do is we also want to access the classes. So how do we add classes to it? Well, we just do post item dot class list. And then I think we can set that equal to just a string. And so we copy all these classes right here, and we just set those equal to that. We go ahead and end it with a semicolon. And then if we start adding posts, look, it's our posts. Our posts are all here, and they're all actually created with the correct styling and stuff. And yeah, that's about it. And then we could just go ahead and get rid of this comment, and boom. So now we have an actual function that creates a post item, creates an LI. It sets all the inner HTML. It sets some styling and some classes. And then finally, it adds it to the UL. It adds it to the UL list. And yeah, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.